Because I respect your time, I want to give you a too long didn't read right now. And my overall review is really good. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic trombone, not only just for beginners, but I think that it does produce a distinct tone that is very special, and it has its purposes, it has its context. And yeah, feel free to carry on, watch the rest of my 20-minute thoughts about this awesome instrument, this beautiful budget trombone that you can get for a third of the price as the other entry trombones out there. I highly recommend this trombone. pBone sponsor me, and I hope you enjoy the next 20 minutes, because I fucking going. Let's talk the pBone. The pBone, otherwise known as the plastic trombone, is a budget-friendly beginner student trombone. But that is kind of a misleading term, because as somebody who has used maybe $400 or $500 student trombone, so still very entry-level trombone, who's been playing a brass trombone for around a decade, switching over from that to this plastic trombone here for a tad bit, it's quite a transition. And I would say that this plastic trombone is a lot harder to make a nice tone and a consistent tone out of than a normal brass trombone. One of the more common criticisms that I found with the pBone, besides the stigma of having a plastic trombone, which really means nothing to me personally, because I think that anybody who really has music in their heart or who really wants to find music in their soul, they're going to find it with anything. You can make any instrument sound good if you are good. And if you're bad, then you're going to make a fucking $7,000 trombone sound like shit. So, first, right off the bat, I'm going to take that Band-Aid off and say that the plasticness doesn't really matter. But it does change the timbre, it does change the tone, and it does change the air resistance that you feel when buzzing your lips into the mouthpiece. And that I can't completely describe it, the difference between the plastic and the brass trombone, but I will say that it took me around a week or two of relatively consistent playing, maybe 7 hours a week per se, to really get comfortable producing a consistent and high quality tone from this thing. My lips are kind of chopped right now, but you gotta trust me, okay? Just trust me. So yeah, besides it being made out of a relatively cheap material, I don't think that is a huge obstacle to producing good music. I really don't. But what I mean when I say that it is kind of a misleading title for this to be a beginner student trombone is what I just said. It's because it's a lot harder to produce a high quality tone using this thing. But what I will say from that is that the prospective trombonist will be able to experiment with this thing and will be able to determine if they want to continue pursuing this instrument, which is normally gatekept by high prices. The average standard beginner trombone would go around for $500 if you're going to get it brass, if you're going to try to get a metal trombone. And I will say that before I got this brass trombone, and mind you, I've been playing for over a decade, so I'm not saying that this trombone is responsible for my newfound ability since picking up this thing to be able to play high notes. But I think that practicing with the harder instrument, with the harder tool, allows me to increase my skill level at a completely different level, because I'm forced to ride through obstacles that wouldn't exist with a seamless, smooth experience that comes with a really expensive trombone. And I may develop bad habits. So it really is up to the student to come to the instrument with some sort of diligence and some sort of patience with their learning, because one, I do recommend this to anybody who wants to play trombone simply because it's $200. If you want a trombone, dude, this is literally going to be the best thing that you can get for yourself, especially for new conditions. It's otherwise you're going to have to go hunting for a brass trombone. Secondly, yeah, one of the big criticisms too that come with the plastic trombone is it lacks that kind of piercing tonality, that brightness that kind of cuts through the mix, cuts through the band, and allows the projection of the horn to travel a lot farther and a lot clearer. This doesn't really have that as much. And coming in, before I purchased this thing, I was not really looking forward to that aspect of having a plastic tone, but I've kind of grown to love it. And I see it as more of a warmer, softer tone than kind of the piercing, ultra bright tone that you would get from a brass horn. So it really is like it's really like a pros and cons thing. There's no like guaranteed pro, because like, sure, this thing can't play as bright, this thing can't cut through as much, and it might be harder to hear yourself in a live band setting, even though you definitely can. It's all on the player. It's not on the instrument, in my opinion. You can do anything on any tool. It's gonna be really rare that you're actually limited with your instrument. If anything, you are your own limitations, and that's one of my primary beliefs. But yeah, I used to see that as a negative thing, but living under my parents' roofs in the basement, I am sound conscious, and I don't want to disturb them at nighttime when I'm playing trombone or anything, when I'm playing drums or guitar or piano or whatever or singing. So having a tool such as this, a trombone that doesn't produce a piercing sound that travels through walls really easily, and also just happens to sound really soft and mellow and smooth and warm, I've learned to appreciate this aspect of the trombone. A lot of people complain about it. A lot of people say that it's not a real trombone because it doesn't produce those bright frequencies, but context is very important with all of this, And I've recorded songs using this thing, and it sounds great. It sounds really good. Those are like probably the bigger pros to using this thing. I think one of the quote unquote cons is like something to be aware of, really. It's not really a con, it's just like a part of the design, is that unlike a trombone where you can screw the slide to the rest of the horn, this easily not now, but like it easily falls off. It easily detaches. You don't screw anything. Or actually, maybe I should put this on a tripod. And I will say too, if you do get a pBone, use your metal mouthpiece. I have not even touched the plastic mouthpiece. I can go grab that actually real quick. All right. So here it is with the metal. I'll just play some long tones for you. And then we'll go back to the plastic. First time I've ever used this. Literally, I've had this for about 2 months or so now. So we'll see how it sounds. Well, I got some spit. Honestly, when I read reviews about this on the internet, people were bitching. People were complaining a lot about this, and they were recommending to use metal mouthpiece, but literally if I didn't already have this, I'd be fine. Do you hear this? It sounds great. guess pedal tones might be a little harder to hit. But honestly, pedal tones were pretty hard to hit on this thing with the metal trombone when I first got it too. It's part of the air resistance aspect that I was kind of speaking on, is that playing on this horn is a little bit different. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's a little bit different. It feels more compressed. And but yeah, actually, the metal mouthpiece does sound a lot better. But I mean, at the same time, it's a fucking $200. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can get pretty loud with this thing. So all this said and done, I am returning this. I am only returning this too because I found a brass trombone for $175 in my area, and I'm in that window where I'm still able to return the trombone, but there's like a part of me that secretly wants it still. And if I had all the money in the world, I would definitely have a pBone alongside other trombones simply because of the tone that it produces. It's so much different than the other trombone that I had, and I like it a lot. I think it sounds really good. But I also want to mention probably the most negative aspect of the pBone, which would be the slide. And it wasn't even until today that I started to look at the slide in a more positive light. So, long story short, with my other trombone, here, I'll show you. So with my other trombone in the summer of July, or in July of last summer, 2025, I played trombone heckin' crazily. I played it so much, I played at least like an hour or two a day. And I played it so much where I was super comfortable like handling my instrument to the point where I was bending it all the time because I wanted to have a perfect slide experience, which is something that I've never had. My trombone slide has always given me resistance, so going for those really fast licks has been a problem. So that's like my primary focus when I'm looking for a new trombone these days, is does it slide well? And so I ended up breaking this. I just did this today actually. I cut this section out, and then I put a drumstick in here to try to mold the hole back to normal. And then hopefully I can just fix this trombone, and eventually I'll have two trombones. But what I want to say is that for me, the movement, the slide lubrication is super important. And it's so important that I kind of got really frustrated with this experience that I freaking, I got so comfortable handling this slide that I used my knee to try to bend it back into shape, but then I ended up breaking it, and then that leads to me getting this plastic trombone here. And this is a great replacement. And I'm so happy to have the experience to be able to practice and to be able to play and to be able to listen and to not feel so guilty thinking about the trombone anymore. Because there was a period of time that I just felt so bad. I never wanted to look at the trombone, never wanted to hear anything about trombone on the internet. I didn't want to be reminded just because I felt so guilty from breaking this thing. But I freaking love trombone, and then having this in my possession brought my love back, and I'm not afraid of trombone anymore. So it reignited my passion for trombone. For the first 2 months of me playing until today, it's been extra sticky. It's been extra resistant. So if this was bad, this was maybe 70% slidable, so 30% of the time I'd be hitting like, and I wouldn't be able to do runs as clear as I would like to. And with that said, this was like what, 75? This would be 55 when I first got it. It would be like so sticky everywhere. But today, look, it's still kind of sticky, but I think after some wear and tear, you could do a lot of real fast maneuvers with this thing, once you get it all frictioned up and smoothed out. So, I would not be pissed if I didn't find a replacement trombone and I had to keep this thing, because it looks like the future's really high with the slide here. the future's bright more so. Like before it used to be really bad, now it's like or something, you know. I don't know. So with this, that's really the only negative aspect in my opinion. Unless you just don't want to be seen holding a plastic trombone because you're shallow like that. And I guess you're just not part of my target audience. Something about me that I should also mention at the same time is I am so obsessed with improvement and music. I'm super obsessed with my tools, and I don't really care too much about them being like high quality insofar as the materials or prices are concerned, because I know that more than 70% of the output is dependent on my ability to create something beautiful with it. You can have as many expensive gear as you want, but if you're not good at what you're doing, then your sound's not going to be as good as it could be. And that's all to say is something about me is, in order for me to get better at guitar, for example, right? I decided, or even bass, I got heckin' thick gauges on both of these guitars. I got really, really thick strings, which require me to press harder, to be more accurate, and to be more deliberate with how I use my fingers and the mechanics that come with playing the guitar. And I do it on purpose because I understand that if I'm able to teach my body to overcome these hurdles in producing good tone and producing good technique and sound, then if I pick up a different guitar that has lighter strings, I'm going to be even better, right? And the same goes with drums here. I got this drum kit last November, and with that I got these carbon fiber drumsticks, which are 5As. They're very, very cool and they're unique, but the thing about them is that they're pretty heavy, so you're gonna wear out your wrists a lot faster. It's a lot harder to play long sessions when you first get these because it's just that heavy. It's just that different of a drumstick experience than you would get with the wood drumstick. But yeah, for the first 7 months or so since I got my drum kit, I mainly played with those carbon fibers. I watched a review on the internet and they said that if you get these, they're going to be really hard to play, but they'll make you a better player. And I agree. They did make me a lot better player, and I'm able to last longer. I'm able to do cooler stuff and not complain about my muscles because of all of the endurance practice, all of the conditioning I've done to my body, learning the instrument in a difficult situation, right? Because I'm here to improve, I'm here to make beautiful noise, and I'm not expecting the music to come out of the horn. I'm expecting the music to come out of me. You know what I'm saying? So if you are like me, then I especially recommend that you grab a pBone if you are interested, for all the reasons, because it's one, really budget friendly. It's $200 compared to $1,000 or $500. And a lot of these trombone aficionados, these snobs, are going to tell you that a pBone won't be worth it unless you just want a toy or if you're just a beginner. But like, I disagree completely, and I just don't think those guys have any real lives. Like, of course, higher quality material is going to sound better, but I wouldn't sway anyone away from a pBone, especially if they're just interested in learning the instrument. What I will say, though, is that if you invest into a pBone, it'll be like thicker strings. It'll be like heavier drumsticks in the sense that you're putting weights on yourself. And that might be really tough to manage as a beginner. But I'll tell you, if you stick through it and if you learn how to do your thing on the pBone, if you ever switch, if you ever upgrade to a different trombone, or I guess like if you just switch to a different trombone, because I see this as equally valuable as any other trombone that I've played, because it just produces a distinct tone. It just produces a different tone. I recommend that shit, dude. I recommend the pBone. I think it's actually a great instrument. I think it sounds awesome, and it does really well in the recording setting too. I don't have to compensate or bring down the highs. In other words, I don't have to include a low pass or whatever like in the equalizer, so it is less piercing, so it is less bright, so it fits in the mix a little bit cleaner, and it's not so like a jar. It's not so off-putting. I would say that the pBone is actually a lot easier to work with in a recording situation. I have no experience with it in a live band or marching band situation, but I've watched a couple videos and they vouch for it in that setting. And this does play really loud. I can play really loud if I wanted to, so I have no doubt in my mind that it's a functional way to do the thing. So yeah, all in all, the pBone is a great instrument. It's actually like such a fantastic budget instrument, and it's amazing that it's only $200, especially compared to all the other options that you would be choosing from. You know, if this thing didn't exist, you like this is a no-brainer for me. It's a freaking 8 out of 10 experience, and probably like a yeah, 8 out of 10 experience, really, in my opinion. I think it's a great instrument, so that's my review of the pBone. I think it sounds great. The only real thing is that the slide's weird. Just something too is like the tuning slide is, or not right now, but it's usually really lubricated. It feels really easy to bring out and in, so it's just like, it's just a different experience, but yeah, it's definitely a trombone. It's definitely a trombone, and I am not sponsored by pBone. If anything, I normally bash brands. I'm not a huge fan of name brands like that. But yeah, if pBone wanted to sponsor me, dude, I will definitely take a free pBone, dude, because this is a really fantastic tool, and I'd like to explore more of what it would sound like in different musical contexts for my own recordings and songs. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this 18 minute long overview on the pBone. I hope it helps. Feel free to ask me any questions. And the next time you see me, I will probably have some beaten up Jupiter trombone that that looks really old, but who knows? If it sounds good, then it sounds good. You know, I don't care. I don't really care about aesthetics. I just want to be able to do the thing, you know? So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Peace. I'll catch you later.